Let's Talk to Animals. My name is Shannon Cutts. I'm an animal sensitive and intuitive, an animal communication teacher, and a Reiki master practitioner for pets and their people. In our last podcast episode, I shared the intensely personal and deeply imperfect story of how my beloved soulbird Pearl of 24 years reincarnated to me as Miss Petal, who is hanging out over here on the window ledge. What I like to call, we've got one of those window shades that goes up and down from both ends, and I call it her elevator. She loves to jump on it, and I take her for rides up and down. And I shared that story with you of how Miss Petal is the reincarnation of my soulbird Pearl. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. That was our birthday episode. One thing I forgot to share right at the end, I got so emotional, is that Miss Petal shares a birthday with me and Pearl, because based on when her egg was found and when she hatched, there were just so many wonderful signs and miracles. And I have to say that all of the training that I have done as an animal intuitive and all of the sessions I facilitated for others seeking the reincarnation of their soul pet, and all of the willingness that I brought in my heart, in my mind, even in my physical body, to feel and sense into what feels true for me, have supported all of us on this journey. In this episode, as I promised, I am going to answer 5 frequently asked questions about pet reincarnation. And the 5 I have chosen are: what is it like? How does it work? How will you know? What happens if a different animal enters your world while you're waiting or searching or efforting into or intentioning the reincarnation to unfold? And how can you start the process? So if you have other questions about pet reincarnation, do feel free to drop them in the comments, and I will add those to the notes for a future podcast episode. But for now, let's start here, because these 5 questions really do represent the top 5 that I hear on a regular basis as I'm walking pet parents through the process of deciding whether to seek a reincarnation reunion, actively engaging in that process, and welcoming their reincarnated pet back into their 3D lives. So, for starters, what is it like to live with a reincarnated pet? Well, as you learned in my last episode, I am living with one right now, and this is actually our 4th iteration together. We've been Shannon and Perky, Shannon and Jacob, Shannon and Pearl, and now Shannon and Miss Petal. So one thing I can share with absolute certainty is it is never exactly the same. I like to say, and I'm constantly reiterating, pet reincarnation is not pet cloning. And what do I mean by that? Well, when we clone an animal, what we're hoping for is an exact carbon copy of the original, right? And when we're reincarnating, whether it's ourselves coming back in a new body, whether it's another being coming back in a new body, well, just think about it like this. When you're up in your spirit state, your 5D or 12D or whatever we're calling it these days, you're in your light body, you're in your highest vibration, your purest form. Everything is wonderful. It feels wonderful. There's no limitation. There's constant expansion. There's continual communion with all that is. There is unconditional love freely available at all times and in all places. We are marinating in it. We are it. So what on earth would incent us to come back into, and really when we say come back into, come down into, to reincarnate into a physical form? Why would we want to leave all that wonderful unconditional love to come here to incarnate into a body, to welcome limitation, to minimize our true expansive potential? Well, the motivation is to learn and to grow. I love what Tara Brach says. This was my favorite, my late best friend's very favorite saying. We're here to learn to grow in wisdom and learn to love better. And I think of her every day. I think of that. when I'm interacting with animals in spirit and they're sharing what it's like to be in their spirit form. And they're sharing over and over and over and over again that the soul regret that they have or longing that they have that might ever incent them to come back down out of this expansive, limitless, unconditional love state is watching their humans suffer, or watching the suffering on this planet, or recognizing that they have more to learn, they have more to contribute that is best facilitated by being in a physical form. And so that is our motivation for any being of any species to come into a physical body, is we have more to learn. We have more to contribute. And it may be one, it may be both. We have looked back through time, we can see avatars, divine, high vibration spirit beings who have incarnated in physical bodies to serve, to be a light in dark places and dark times. And we have individuals who come and incarnate in a physical body and they become a source of incredible disturbance to others to facilitate their learning and their growing. And they also learn and grow themselves. So the interactions that are happening on this 3D physical plane are quite different in that sense, and that they're very interactive for the purposes of mutual learning and growth, serving and being served. And so I share all of this as a preface to say that when your soul pet is in this expansive, limitless state, this light state, this spirit state, and they're choosing to incarnate again, it's because they have more learning and growing to do, also because they have more serving to do, they have more being served to do, they have further evolution up ahead of them. Opportunity is knocking, so to speak, and they choose to answer the door, and that's why they're going to choose to come back. So are we expecting a clone in that sense? How would that serve that animal to come back and be exactly the way they were last time? Chances are very, very slim that it's going to serve much, if at all, their soul path if they come back into the exact same circumstances as the exact same being they were the last time around. That's like we go back and re-watch a really good movie. Like I've seen movie Contact about a zillion times by now. And sure, I learn something new every time I watch it. It's kind of like doing a soul review, and I'm catching up with where I was the first time I saw it versus where I am the 2,500th time I've seen it. But is that going to serve me as much as stepping into a brand new movie? And the movie that's happening now in my life. We watch those reruns because we know how they're going to end. And they do put us into a reliably beautiful state. Like you probably heard it in my voice on the last podcast. Every time I go back and I revisit what it was like living with Pearl as Pearl, it puts me to this very high vibration, very grateful, very expansive state. When I meditate and I want to get into a place of very high vibration to make it the most easy for me to connect with the animals, the souls of the animals in spirit, and the essence, the spirit of animals who are embodied. Well, all I do is look at the little picture of Pearl that I have hanging behind my laptop. And that puts me into that state right away. It's a state that animals effortlessly vibe with. Well, I look at my little sweet Petal here, and that's one of many great reasons to keep constant company with animals, is because of when we connect with their hearts, they elevate our hearts. But the chances are very, very slim if you do decide that you want to invite your soul pet back into your life in a reincarnated form, that you're going to get the exact same animal as you got the last go round, because it doesn't serve them. And if we're being 150% honest, which is always a good way to be when we're talking about pet reincarnation or anything, probably isn't going to serve you at the highest level either. You have a new chapter in your story, in your mutual stories, in your story together that you're unfolding. And it's going to look different. You're going to look different. You look different now than you did 5 or 10 or, in my case, 24 years ago when you first met that beautiful animal that you're missing, that you love so much. And so when they come back to you, they're probably going to look different. They may act very different. I've had animals tell me, last time you took care of me, this time I'm going to take care of you, and vice versa. I've had animals say, watch out, it's going to look very different this time around. But that difference is going to reflect how we've learned and grown together and what we're ready for now, the new challenges that we are able to tackle together, the new expansive opportunities that we are able to enjoy together. So, what can you expect? You can expect some undercurrent of the same. And I shared in the last podcast episode how there have been signs and wonders and signs and wonders and signs and wonders, and often at moments when Petal is behaving very differently from Mr. Pearl. And I'm thinking to myself, are you really him? Are you really sure? And then something will pop up, or I'll notice something that's been in my space all along, like the painting I talked to you about. That painting was painted when he was 15. He was with me for another 9 years before he passed. It's been there on my wall for 9 years, showing me what's to come. And this really gets more into quantum physics, quantum mechanics, how time is so relative and it shifts based on our perspective, and how the universe is holographic. In each little particle of the universe, the whole is miraculously contained. And that's way above my pay grade to try to explain to you. There's some great books out there that explain more about how that works. But what we're talking about here is we have to be open to having a new experience with the essence of the one we love. And so that's what you can expect when you say yes to your soul pet re-entering this 3D world, re-entering a new body, re-engaging with you for a whole new series of adventures together. If that sounds like your cup of tea, then keep on listening, because the next most frequently asked question, that was beautifully grammatically correct, wasn't it, is, how does it work? What do I do? Where do I start? Who do I ask? Where do I go? We'll get into that, but let's just take it step by step. How does it work? So the first step is always what I call the sensing into. And by that, I mean, is this part of your beloved soul pet's spirit path to return? It is for many animals. It isn't for all. And what I have discovered as I've worked with pet parents and their soul pets who've passed, who've crossed over into spirit, I've discovered that in most cases, you, the pet parent, will develop an interest in pet reincarnation if there's a corresponding soul contract in place for that to occur, i.e., if you fall into a grief place, which we all have to go through, we look at it and we're like, oh crap, I don't want to do that. And we go through, we move through it. And then there's that new life, there's that new birth, that rebirth, if you will, as the new being who's now weathered this storm of grief and has survived it and has come out stronger and wiser and more grateful, and hopefully more loving and appreciative and giving and open-hearted. And many pet parents, they will come across another animal. We'll talk a little bit more about that, but they'll come across another animal and they'll invite that animal into their life, and it just feels right. And that means that, at least for the present, their animal who's crossed is meant to remain in spirit. And often those animals will join the pet parent's light team, so that your departed pet may join your light team. They may be the boss, the president of your light worker team. They may reincarnate in a body to be with a different human whom they can best serve and who can best serve them. They may stay in spirit in a more generalized or big picture role, uplifting the consciousness of all the worlds we're connected in. There are so many permutations that are possible. So when I find when a pet parent is actively engaging with the concept of reincarnation, is actively interested in seeking whether their pet would like to be in a new body, would like to come back in a new body, there's pretty good chance that there's a soul contract in place that serves that interest, and that the interest is mutual, I guess is what I'm saying. And so if you're thinking to yourself, my soul pet is crossed and I sure would like to know more about pet reincarnation, I sure would like to ask my animal if they'd like to come back, if they are coming back, and if they are coming back, what to look for, how to find them, which we'll talk about next, then there's a pretty good chance that this is definitely a possibility for you. And so that's really the first step, though, is we got to find out if your animal in spirit, if this is in their trajectory, is this in their best interest? Because of course, when we love someone unconditionally, we don't want to go against what is in their best interest. What's the highest and best forward trajectory or the soul plan for them for continued growth and expansion? And so this is our first step. And normally what people do then, if you're a pet parent, you're going to hire me or someone like me, and we're going to talk with your pet in spirit. We're going to find out, are they interested in coming back? If so, when would they like to come back? What works best for them? And then going more into the mechanics. But first we have to find this out, right? And so you can also ask your pet directly and you can feel into it. I don't ever want to represent that the only way to connect with your animal is to hire an animal communicator. That's what I did for years because I truly, truly believed that you're just born with it. And it's like being good at singing or math. You either can hear the difference between the notes or you can't, et cetera, et cetera. And there's all kinds of shades of gray of that. And now I know that this is a gift that we all have. It's also a skill that we can learn. And I've discovered as well that the right time to learn and to develop our gift into a skill is probably not when we're emotionally compromised, when we're going through the grief process. I have asked many times, have asked my colleagues, my professional animal communicator colleagues, to help me when I've been going through a tough spot with one of my personal animals or going and up leveling to a new skill set with my animal communication practice. So we never need to worry that there isn't help or never need to think twice about asking for help. But you can also go inside. You can also feel for what feels true for you. Does your animal want to return? Do you want your animal to return? Are you already dreaming of new adventures, of new experiences that you can have together? And so if the answer is yes, then we move to the third of the frequently asked questions. How will I know? Isn't this one the moving target to end all moving targets, right? How will you know? This is where I turn to Einstein. I just love him. I turn to Einstein, who famously said, one of many famous sayings that Einstein once famously said. This is probably my favorite. He said, we have two ways to live life. One is if nothing is a miracle, and one is if everything is a miracle. And so when we live life as if everything's a miracle, we'll find signs and wonders everywhere. And I've gone through this from every angle. And I say that, of course, because I shared with you the process of going through Jacob's death and having no idea that when Pearl came into my life that he was the reincarnation of Jacob. I hadn't even started engaging with the idea of animal communication. I had not hired my first animal communicator to help me. I had certainly never crossed my mind that I could talk with animals and I could hear animals and we could have two-way conversations. So at no point did it cross my mind that Pearl was Jacob returning speedily to me in a new body for a much longer set of wonderful, expanding adventures together. But how does it work and how do you know? Those two are grounded in the miraculous, right? Once we are open, once we understand what we're really ordering, that we're not ordering a clone of our old pet, we're ordering a new series of adventures with a new multidimensional 5D being who's here to serve and be served, to learn and grow, just like we are, well, then we move right into the realm of the miraculous, right? And so we have to be open. We have to be constantly engaging with the part of our left brain, rational, logical, analytical mind that's going to say at every turn, this isn't real, this isn't possible. When I've posted about this on social media, by and large, and it's probably just because of the community that I have painstakingly curated and developed over the years, and my tribe, my people, the kind of people I want to surround myself with, the kind of person I want to be, it's safe to say that the pushback has been in the minority, but I have had a handful of folks come back at me and say, oh, that's not possible, or that's hogwash, or that's just a load of whatever, or that's not reality, reality. And my response is, who says? Reality is of our choosing. Reality is of our creating. Reality is ours to engage with as feels right to us. Right, Petal? If you're watching the video, right as I said that, she flew and landed right on the top of my head where she's probably thinking about making a nest. So we have to engage with miraculous. We have to be willing to engage with what is known beyond what our left brain rational logical mind can know, to see beyond what our outer facing eyes can see, to hear beyond what our outer facing ears can hear, to feel, to sense beyond what our outer facing sensory being can sense into. We have to be willing to just know and to hold to what we know no matter what. And that includes the opinions of others. And that also means if you are surrounded by people in your life who think that any concept of reincarnated anything or anyone is beyond the pale, then don't say anything to them. We're not inviting our pet back into our life in a reincarnated body just to have arguments with other human animals about whether it's real or not. This is a very intensely personal decision. It's a very intensely personal relationship. Don't share it with people who can't appreciate it. Don't share it with people who won't honor it for all that it is in your life. Keep it private. There are people in my life I don't share all this with because it doesn't serve them. It doesn't serve me. They're not ready for it. They're not open to it. That's fine. They have other experiences that they're here to have. And maybe some of those are things I'm absolutely not interested in. So, we live and let live and don't impose our experiences on those who aren't willing to at least entertain and engage the wonder of them. So this is really where we have to say, I will know what I know when I know it. This is one of the biggest aha moments for me as an animal intuitive when I first started practicing. And of course, if you've studied with me, you know this story. When I first started learning, practicing, turning my gift into a skill, as one of my mentors, Joanne Yeo, says, then I really didn't think it was happening much for me. And I was so jealous of the other communicators in my class because they were getting these 3D Technicolor movies and all these wonderful details until I worked with a mentor named Jody Crotty, who is another wonderful animal communicator. And she said, pay attention to what happens right in that split second moment before your brain gets going to say, I didn't get anything. And you start stressing out. Pay attention to what happened right before then. And what was happening was I was getting these lovely little presents, like just dropping down a chute, like Santa down a chimney, getting these packages full of information from the animals. And it was happening so fast that it would bypass my left brain mind completely. And I didn't know it was happening. And because I wasn't quick enough, I wasn't catching them. And my left brain mind would start, and it was like I would get these beautiful, complete downloads. It was like the Technicolor movie, but it was all in this perfect little multi-dimensional holographic cube, and all the information was in there. And I just kind of had to parse it apart and create it and kind of recreate it into a format where I could digest it with my left brain mind and then turn it into words and share it, if need be, with another pet parent. And so once I started to understand this, that became the vehicle through which I could access wonder very reliably. Unless it's something that bypasses the left brain mind entirely because the left brain mind isn't set up to process it. It doesn't even recognize it as information. This is where the wonder exists. This is where Einstein first encountered the theory of relativity. He could sense it. He can feel it. He could probably even smell and taste it all around him. He just did not have the words to explain and share it yet. So first we engage with the wonder. We engage with the miracle. We engage with the creative. We engage at a level that precedes activity in the left brain mind. And this is how we know. I can definitely help in terms of if you are wanting to ask your animal for specific signs, specific cues, absolutely, we can do this. Last week, I was talking with a student who is interested in inviting her soul dog back into her life. And we talked about the importance of the eyes and being able to lock eyes, locking gaze with someone and going, oh, I know you. And she's asking her dog for this cue to be able to know. So we can ask our animal, send me this sign that will be deeply meaningful to me. It's not that your animal doesn't already know as well. When we lock eyes with someone and we recognize them, the only way that that click of recognition becomes possible is if it's two-way, it's mutual. We recognize one another. So chances are good that your animal already knows that this is an important cue for you. So I don't want you to feel like if I didn't ask for that sign directly, then I'm not going to get it. Your animal has the same high degree of interest in reconnecting with you that you do with them. So they're going to make every effort to send you the signs, to send you the signals. They don't want you to miss them any more than you want to miss out on recognizing them when you cross paths. So this is not a one-way street. This is not a test. It's not like your animal's testing you to see, is your love authentic? Can you really tell? This is not an intuitive test. If you have absolutely no intuitive skills building in your past, in your recent past, in your distant past, this does not mean that we cannot facilitate this for you. There are no prerequisites other than an open heart and a willingness to engage with miracles. And if that sounds really airy-fairy, it is at that level, because pet reincarnation is inviting a whole new level of adventure into your life, a whole new level of self-evolution, a whole new level of self-expansion and growth. And of course, this is the age that we're in right now. This is the era that we're in. And some people engage with it as, oh God, this is the end times. This is the dark times. And others engage with it as, this is the dawning of the light of a new era of expansiveness. And you can choose your extreme or somewhere in the middle, but pet reincarnation is definitely along the lines of the age of light. And so you get to put yourself in this new adventure of, what if everything is possible? What if I can just know that I know something and I don't have to be able to logically, rationally, analytically explain to myself or anyone else that I know it, how I know it, or why. For me, it's absolutely the truth. And so this is how we know. You just meet someone and you know. Maybe it's a day when you were intending to meet someone. Maybe it's a day when you were intending to do something else entirely. And yes, it helps to set your intention. There are specific building blocks that we can set into place. This is something you're interested in exploring. Let's get together. Let's chat about it. Let's schedule a session so that we can start walking you through those practical steps. But for our purposes' sake, for time's sake, I'll just say that it starts by, once you've gathered the animals' thumbs up that yes, this is something they want, this is something that is good for them too, and let's make it happen. Then the next step is you're setting an intention. You're setting an intention. Yes, this is something that I'm going for it. I am going for it. If I fail, I fail 150,000%. And if I succeed, it's the biggest payoff of our shared lifetime together. So, okay, that's worth it. Let's go for it. I like those odds. So we set that intention, and then we, start thinking through, start replaying the pivotal moments and what signs and wonders might be most beneficial for you, might be most impactful for you to break through any doubt or resistance that you have. And then put yourself out there. It doesn't mean you have to start scouring every pet shelter website or asking everyone you know, but you open your heart to possibility and you ask. You can ask your soul, pet, and spirit, please guide me. Please lead me to you in embodied. Please lead me to you in your new embodied form. I can't wait to meet you. And then hold that high vibration of that excitement and that joy. Visualize what it's like when you meet. Visualize and feel into what it feels like, and the relief and the joy and the overwhelm and the celebration. Keep yourself in that state. And this is how we recognize one another. This is how we find one another again. Now, this next question really speaks to several clients I've worked with who, and when I say clients, I mean human clients, because I work in teams. I always am kind of the third wheel in the conversation. I always work with a human and their animal or their animals. And so I'm the translator, I'm the decoder and the translator. I am the facilitator of the two-way conversation that you're having with your animal or animals. So, what if along the way, I've had several human clients who've experienced this, a different animal comes into your life? Now, the way I'm going to address this is going to be a little different. I'm going to share a different story from my personal family. Doesn't directly have to do with pet reincarnation, but it has to do with some of the winding roads that we walk across as we meet and connect with other beings that we have soul contracts, that we share soul contracts with. And so what happened is several years ago, my now almost 10-year-old red-footed tortoise Maltese ran away to have an adventure. She was only a year old. She ran away into the suburban wilds to go explore and decide if she wanted to be a wild tortoise or if she wanted to live in a domesticated situation with me. And I, of course, melted down, as I do every time an animal of mine even gets the faintest whiff of danger, or I can't see them 24/7. I don't have them in direct line of sight. I'm a pretty eager mommy guard, if you will. And I searched for Maltese for 6, 7 days. I mean, I searched everywhere. There were posters everywhere. I had posters on my car. I was constantly out. The neighbors were out. My mom came over every day and beat the bushes with me. And we searched and we searched and we searched. And long story short, during this period of time, a certain box turtle was rescued to me not once, but twice. Once on the first day that Malty got lost and we ran off. I thought she was lost. And once on the last day, about an hour before I found her again. And during this 7-day period, I had 3 different animal communicators from around the world working with me to try to geolocate her position. And they all told me the same information, but I could not find her. And it wasn't until that 7th day, when my rescued box turtle, Bruce, was rescued to me the second time, and I agreed to foster him. And then an hour later, I found Malty. So, why am I sharing this story? What does this have to do with pet reincarnation? Well, sometimes when we're meant to reunite with our pet and spirit in their new body, sometimes we may have another soul contract with a different animal as well. And we may need to be open, be willing to say yes. Even if it's brief, even if it's just a situation where we foster. I had one human client who said yes to fostering an animal. And he wasn't sure if this was his soul pet. See, I'm not going to be able to tell you for certain if this animal you're keeping company with is in fact your reincarnated soul pet. That's for you to know. That is only for you to know. And so this is not about me being a fortune teller into your life or any animal communicator you hire. This is about me guiding and empowering and mentoring and encouraging you to feel into what is true for you and this other being in your life. And so when another animal comes into your life, does that mean that you're meant to keep company with a different animal rather than your reincarnated soul pet? Does that mean you're meant to keep company with both animals? We just take these situations as they arise, right? Does it mean that your pet and spirit has changed their mind and has decided to stay in spirit? Does it mean that you mistook your desire for a pet reincarnation to mean that your pet was coming back? Maybe I've had situations where a pet decides to stay in spirit but sends one of their spirit family. I've even seen it where I see an animal in spirit who sends a spark of their light into a new body. It's the equivalent of a spirit kitten or a spirit puppy or a spirit chick. So when we're working in the realm of the miraculous, it can feel like a really gray area to the left brain mind. But what we're seeking here is our highest and best good and the highest and best good of the animal we love. And if it feels right to welcome a new animal into your life, then that takes precedence over anything else. If you, and here's the easiest way to interact with when I say if it feels right, like what that too feels like a gray area, like kind of very intangible. When I say feels right, what I mean is, do you feel like you can breathe? Does your heart just do that wonderful little lift? Do you notice even that your body, like your physical body, makes a movement forward, or that your chest opens, or that you spontaneously begin to smile, or your eyes get wider? These are all physical, emotional expressions of the parasympathetic nervous system turning on. This is the state we are in when all is well and getting even better, versus when we're in crisis and we're protecting and we're in a situation where we're not sure if we're safe. So all of these little signs and cues, when I say feel into what feels true, what feels better, what feels even better than how you're feeling right now. And that's where we're heading towards. This feels truer than that. This is like the psychic or intuitive level of going to the eye doctor and saying, does it look clear out of the A or B or C or D? That's what we're looking for. The energetic equivalent is, does this feel slightly better than that? Does this activate my parasympathetic nervous system slightly more than that? Does this make my heart flutter with excitement slightly more than that? And so when you have to recognize when, this is hard for us when we're in these emotionally charged moments and we're kind of imagining into what happens to this other animal if I say no and I wait for my soul pet. It's like, we never have just A or B. We've always got C as well as our third option. We have a whole range of options. What if I just say yes for today? What if I just say yes for right now? Every single morning we get up and we recommit to our relationships. We have a choice in every moment to say yes, to say no, and also to say maybe. I don't know for now. For me, when I'm feeling a maybe feeling, which is like, yeah, I don't really feel any worse, but I don't feel any better. That's equivalent of a maybe, what my intuitive mentor, Sonia Choquette, calls a yellow light. Our red lights are no, our green lights are yes, and our yellow lights are maybe, or not enough information to decide yet. And so that's another option too. And there's all sorts of options along that spectrum. And so for me, a maybe is a no until it becomes a yes. So a yellow light is a red light until it becomes a green light. So if another animal crosses your path, just understand that this is another intuitive lesson. This is another energetic opportunity. This is another relational connection. And it may be that you have a soul contract for a split second, just long enough for you to feel your intuition turn on, maybe for the first time ever. So you can feel your yes. You can feel what does a yes even feel like to me? Maybe your soul contract is for the rest of your life. Maybe your soul contract is for a few months and you foster an animal until their forever person is ready for them. So all you really have to pay attention to if another animal crosses your path is, what does it feel like right now? Does it feel like a yes right now? Now, your left brain mind is going to fight with you. It's going to say, but you need to know. And what about this? What about that? If you say yes because it's a yes right now and you trust that, then in the next moment, if you trust it again and again and again, your path will lead you forward. You have to feel into it, not think it, but feel it. If you're watching the video version, I'm actually like pantomiming this for you, putting my hand over my heart and putting my hand on the left hemisphere side of my head, so you can kind of get a sense of where you're living from. Are you living from your rational, logical, analytical left brain mind, which is kind of the last bus stop on the train? Or are you living from the source of it all, which is your heart and your very expansive, limitless right brain mind, which is where all creativity and all miracles intersect with you, the 3D human animal, the embodied animal. So this is really where we start. With another animal has entered your world. Of course, yes, we can also have a communication session with that new animal. We can talk to them. There are even subtler shades of gray through this, where I've had animals who agree to share a body. That's an interesting one. We may tackle that in a future podcast episode. So let me know if you're interested in hearing more about that. I've had animals who have sent a mentee of theirs, and then they check in from time to time. I have had animals that switch out, and that's possible too, where they actually do a body swap. And this is another way that animals can coordinate on the spirit level to make sure that everyone ends up with the soul partner that they've contracted to be with. So that's even deeper. So we can talk about that more. Let me know if you're interested. Share, drop a note in the comment. Let me know if you're interested in that. We can delve into that more deeply. I don't want to over woo you, even though this podcast is about de-wooing and demystifying. I just want to serve you in the best way that I can with the information that you most want to receive, which sometimes means prioritizing what topics we tackle. So just let me know what you're interested in, and I can share more about that. Now we come to the final, the fifth most frequently asked question, which is, how do I start the process? Now, of course, we've touched on that here and there throughout this episode. How do I start the process? First, of course, is setting your intention. Just noticing if you're even interested, if this is something that's crossing your mind. Maybe it's something that first crossed your mind and you thought, whatever, or that's, stupid, I don't believe in that, or whatever left brain comment, maybe followed it up. And then you just notice that your mind keeps coming back to it. And it just keeps coming back to it. And it just keeps coming back to it. And so that's how you can kind of know that there may be more of an engagement here, more of a relational engagement. It almost keeps coming into your mind as if it was dropped in there. And that can be your spirit pet, your animal on the spirit side, who's actually dropping it in and re-engaging, kind of reminding you, tapping you on the energetic shoulder, saying, hey, remember, we agreed we were going to do another round together. We were going to have more than one incarnated relationship in this lifetime. And so just notice that and get curious. This is the same basic process I teach when I teach animal communications. Start to wonder, notice, get curious, ask better questions. I wonder what this means, rather than here's what this means, that top down, heavy, 3D, left brain, logical analysis of it. We go, I wonder what this means. Let me look for more clues. Stay in that light, fun, playful, childlike wonder of the limitless right brain hemisphere. Allow more to be revealed. This is the way of all great science. This is how the theory of relativity got discovered. Is we just stay open. We stay curious. We stay playful. We continue seeing what there is to be seen, feeling what there is to be felt, hearing what there is to be heard, sensing what there is to be sensed. This is how we start the process. Now, many of my clients at some point will choose to reach out to me and say, hey, can we have a session about this? Can we talk to my pet in spirit? Can we gather some more information? Can we put our hearts together and brainstorm, heartstorm, what this might look like? Can we talk about timing? Can we talk about clues, signs, wonders? Can we investigate where to go look, or what to ask for, or how to invite my spirit team in to help? And absolutely we can. Absolutely. This is definitely a team sport. And trust me, I had help. along the way, I've had plenty of help. If you listen to the last podcast and for any reason, despite myself, I made the process of me inviting Pearl back into my life sounds seamless. Please know that behind the scenes, it did not feel that way. I had several of my colleagues who were supporting me and definitely sending me messages here and there about what Pearl had to share, things that I just was too much in grief to be able to hear or receive directly from him. So, and definitely over the years, I've had so much support from animal communicators that I have hired and worked with. There has always been a team. There will always be a team. This is pet reincarnation, as in every deep soul level heart connection. It's always a team sport. We need each other. So please do reach out. If I can be of service to you, if you have more questions specific to your relationship with your pet and spirit, with a pet that you're hoping to call back into your life, that you're intentioning to call back into your life through pet reincarnation, then absolutely, let's talk about it. And let's start the process. Let's start the ball rolling for you and your soul pet. And let's start building that excitement and that sense of wonder so that it happens in the smoothest and most miraculous way possible, so that it unfolds into a story that you will want to tell yourself and fall asleep to every single night, the sweetest bedtime story in the world. So I hope that this podcast episode has served you. If there are other questions that you have about pet reincarnation, please do feel free to drop a comment or send me an email and let me know. You can reach me at shannon@animallovelanguages.com. These episodes are coming out every 2 weeks, giving me a little bit more time to hear from you, to prepare, to share deeply from my heart about the wonderful world that is interspecies communication conversation. And I hope you're enjoying it. I look forward to welcoming you back very soon and sending you all my love. Okay.